As you scan the horizon for all the details that can be found in the world, what do you see? Probably gems of gold and gems of silver and all kinds of treasures as you travel and go along your own pathway in life. I'm Everett Curdy, and in this video, I'm going to be describing what Saturn in the sign of Sagittarius means if you have this placement in your birth chart. So let's first talk about these two different archetypes of Saturn and then Sagittarius, and let's see how we can enmesh them and put them together, where we take the sign and put the planet, and it gives the flavor of that sign combined with the planet. And so we need to understand the basic themes of what the planet is about to understand how those themes make sense and show up and connect with the sign that it's in. So Saturn is the archetype of discipline. It is the father archetype that really wants you to be at your best. Saturn wants to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and that you're doing a good job, because the one thing that Saturn does not stand for is laziness. With Saturnian energy, you have to be the one to take responsibility. You have to be the one to be willing to pull your weight and do the work. Because if you're not, then Saturn is not going to be so nice. He is going to come down on you and drive you to the point where you have to do all of what you have to do. Saturn is about the discipline that you have and the self-control you have in order to achieve your goals. And Saturn is about delayed gratification. With Saturnian energy, it's about the long haul and the process of all the hard work that you put in again and again and again until at the very end, until you climb up to the top of the mountain and you look back feeling accomplished, feeling very gratified for what you've done that didn't take an instant, that didn't take a snap of your fingers, or it wasn't overnight. It took a long time for you, and it took a lot of hard work. And now it is finally, you're reaping the fruits of your labor after that point. So that is, that's basically what you need to know about Saturnian energy. It's known as a malefic planet. And so in order to understand more about Saturn and its natal meaning, I have a whole nother video about Saturn in astrology and what this planet's meaning is all about. And I describe all this in way more detail in that video, which I think is around 55 minutes worth of content. So I'll be sure to link that video below in the description of this video so that you can understand the real meaning of what that planet is about, so that you can better understand your own individual Saturn placement or Saturnian placement. So if you have Saturn in the sign of the Archer, in the sign of the Centaur, it's really, really important first to understand symbolism. Sagittarius is represented by the centaur, half man, half horse. And so half of it is wild and free and wants adventure and wants absolute liberation and wants to enjoy all the exciting parts of life. Yet the other part of the centaur is the man, which represents Sagittarius' moral and ethical side, philosophical side. It's all about learning, it's all about intellectual pursuits, higher education, where you are going beyond what you already know to discover who you truly are. It's about Sagittarius is about travel and adventure um and and religion and really seeking a higher truth, something greater than yourself. And so all these themes really combine very well with when you add Saturn to the mix. And wherever Saturn goes, it puts a serious and it puts a priority on whatever sign that it's in. It's like this sign is so important, it requires you to put the effort in. Saturn in any sign is here is where you have hard work to do, not what I'm getting handed on the platter, just already done for me. It's where we have to put in the work. And Saturn puts a lesson, and life lesson on whatever it moves through, and indicates an area where we may need to mature. And I really, I'm not a big fan of that word, but you know, it's where at first we may not have the spiritual maturity. That's really the only kind of maturity there should be, a spiritual maturity, where we need to develop that maturity over time. And so delving into this placement, it's very important for, if you have this placement in your natal chart, to develop a strong and stable moral foundation, a foundation where you have your beliefs, your opinions, your ethics, and your real perspective of life. It's very important that you have a strong set of beliefs and you have a higher power and a religion that you are into that is true for you, and that you have a lot of strong morals and also ethics and strong principles for your life, a strong code for your life, where you're going to live this life based off of these rules that you set for yourself, based off of this kind of inner authority, based off of this religion. And it rules kind of top-down religions, because religions are top-down, where there is, a God or gods, and there are these commandments and these rules that you follow in order to be faithful to these gods, in order to be on not necessarily, their good side, that's not the right word to use, but to be in alignment with that form of truth. And when it comes to Saturn and Sagittarius, Saturn rules over authority and governments and things like that. And Saturnian energy within itself can indicate some blocks and some limitations for a certain area of life. And so it might mean that people with Saturn and Sagittarius maybe have very strong religious families where they were just indoctrinated into religion without their consent. They were probably indoctrinated into a religion without a little test to make sure that this religion is in alignment with your truth. It's very important, if you have this placement, to develop your own religion, or to get into a religion that is true for you, to do a spiritual practice that is true for you, and to try to break away from the indoctrination and the sort of, you're getting into, let's just say, a certain religion where you've been raised in that religion, and maybe parental religious beliefs, or society's religious beliefs limited you in the past. And now it is Saturn that asks you, what really is your truth? What is your truth? What's true for you? And that is going to be a lifelong philosophical question that you're going to take so long, an infinite amount of time to answer. And so it's going to be very important, to just find those rules that feel true with yourself, to yourself, that are well balanced. Finding rules, finding principles that you can stick to and that are true for you and are not too rigid and limiting in terms of living your life and also relationships, because there can be some strong principles and rules of ways of living life that can limit you or who you are or your relationships. So making sure not to be too strong and dogmatic about those rules that you have set within yourself, because Sagittarius is a sign of extremes. It's sort of an all or nothing energy where you can get yourself into this philosophy or this religion and go all the way and follow all the rules blindly, blind faith, following all the rules, going by the book, all those kind of things like that, which is the shadow side of Sagittarius on the mundane front. And it's going to be important to allow for change and flexibility and, openness to allowing your schedule or principles to bend like bamboo and not be, hard as iron. And so it's part of the more exploratory aspect of Sagittarius. Um, and so, yeah, so the families that you may come from, may be Christian or, whatever religion that they may be, there may be limitation with that. Maybe you have been limited in terms of you discovering who you are by traveling and exploring your own personal truth and finding your true note. Maybe there is a limitation with this where you were limited in terms of you being a free soul living a human experience. This may have been very restrictive, and so that is something that you may need to over time. It's going to take a lot of hard work, but easing away from those limiting beliefs imposed upon you by families or society. And there's a lot of freedom when you come to understand that whatever people say is them projecting onto you, them imposing onto you. Not always. However, it's important to have that detached understanding where you can liberate yourself from the beliefs and the standards and the set of, the doctrine imposed upon you by others. So you may have just, come along for the ride and you were probably tossed in and driven with certain, a set of beliefs that underneath it all, it's not true for you. It doesn't feel true for you. And yet it feels so comfortable and so familiar and so easy to just go along with it because that may be, the case also. But, this life is about digging and excavating to find your personal truth and to live in total authentic alignment with that truth unapologetically. So, this, life may be sort of a test and trial to see what kinds of experiences that you will put yourself onto for personal growth, for expansion, for freedom through learning, through, exploring, through reading, through watching documentaries, through traveling, all these things that enrich your mind and broaden your perspective on life, and to see the similarities and differences between one place and another, to see how connected you are to so many other people in a divine way, but also how different you are to everybody else as well, and understanding the unity and diversity and appreciating the different flavors and textures and distinctions of people with their life experiences, their knowledge base, their ideas, their perspectives of life. So this life is about defining what do you believe, and you may not truly believe in a certain thing, and you're sort of doing some excavating and some metacognitive work with finding out what you truly believe. You may not have a strong belief system coming into you, and you may not know what you truly believe, and you may get swept up in the beliefs of other people and defining, allowing that to define your beliefs. But this life is about liberating yourself and finding and discovering your beliefs through your own personal experiences for growth, through your own independent travel. Because Sagittarius is a sign that wants to be its own sign, it wants to be independent, it does not want to be tied down. And so this life is about um, being that independent searcher for meaning and personal truth that is uniquely your own. And that's not going to get caught up in, that's not about getting caught up in, you know, getting sucked into others' beliefs. So as much as it is about openness to learning and all those things, it is not allowing others' beliefs to define your own and to sort of cheat your way and take the easy way out, which Saturn is not about taking the easy way out and cutting corners, where you could take the easy way out and go, okay, well, what they believe is what I believe. I guess I'll just stick to this religion, even though deep down it doesn't feel true for me. And I don't feel strong enough to step out of that and go on my own personal quest for truth and to find my own beliefs. But that's the hard work that Saturn demands. And Saturn energy, Saturnian energy is where there is hard work to do. It doesn't come naturally to us. And so embracing all of these really positive Sagittarian qualities, like going on, a search for freedom and, quest for freedom and adventure and growth, may be things that you look at and you go, oh, well, I want to do that one day, but then it seems so hard and so unattainable. And there may be a fear set in or an insecurity put into your conscious mind, in your subconscious, where you can't, where there's a message, maybe, it's through childhood or through parents or society, that you can't be free, you can't, have your own truth and all this kind of things like that. But that is, first of all, it's a limitation that may require hard work. And so Saturn puts these challenges and these obstacles to see if you can rise above, to see if you can be the best that you can be through, you being put in malefic circumstances, you being put into whatever shadow side that sign is, whatever the sort of flavor of lack that sign indicates. And so a Sagittarius, it is indoctrination into, religion and things like that, to see if you can rise above and embrace the high vibration side of Sagittarius. Because with Saturn, we can unconsciously probably get into the shadow side of that sign, because it's a new area of life where we need to put a lot of work in, where we're sort of a toddler and we fall on our face and we do all these things like that. But wherever Saturn goes, it's an area that needs to be cultivated to achieve the high road of whatever sign that's in, not to get caught up in the low road or, low vibration side of whatever sign that Saturn moves through in your natal birth chart or by transit. So, this is maybe there's a lack of having faith in life or having faith in a higher power, where, there's like this quote out there where, um, you know, something rather, this common truth that what lies in the physical is the only reality, and that's not true. So there may be sort of a lack of faith that you have in life and a higher power. We're having a conscious contact with your higher power, with a higher power that's true for you, whatever it may be, God, goddess, whatever, and to be in connection with your intuition, into the part of you that knows what to do and where to go, that goes beyond logic. So having a strong sense of intuition, which points you in the direction of your personal truth. And, it's about finding and tuning and fine tuning your true note in this life. So that becomes very important. So you may be also very direct and blunt when it comes to problem solving or tackling something, or dealing with an issue, whatever may come up, because you if you have Saturn in Sagittarius, you're very ambitious and you're very driven and you're very determined to get what you want. Set your sights on a target or a goal, and you will go after that goal very passionately and with and in an energetic and forthright, determined, steadfast way. So, when it comes to your truth with a capital T, you may voice it directly and bluntly. And if you're not conscious, you can take that indoctrination that you were put into, and then it gets into your subconscious, and then it comes out of you, and then you pass on that dead spell or that negative challenge onto others. And that's what you need to be mindful of, is not projecting your own beliefs and strong principles onto others where you're not open to evolution, for growth, for expansion, for learning new information and new insight. So, the status side of someone with displacement is they can get pretty dogmatic and preachy, telling other people how to live their life. And instead of, being open to new perspectives and information, they can close themselves in to just, this is my beliefs, this is my truth, and I'm not giving this up. I'm not changing this. I'm not compromising this. This is what I know, and I know what I know, and I know it. And I know all. This the shadow side of Sagittarian energy is I know all. So not being too rigid and too strong with your beliefs, that you're not open to new ideas, that you're not bending. It's very important for the flexibility, for the bending to happen, for the stretching yourself onto new heights, onto new terrain, to new territory, to new horizons, learning, traveling more places, continuing to evolve and expand your knowledge and your sort of spectrum of experiences. So, going back to tackling something, you can do this in a very head-on way. And so people with this placement are also very passionate about what they want, and they're very energetic and driven toward what they want. So they want to get out into the world and live a meaningful life, to live a life of purpose, where you are asking the question, what is my purpose? Why am I here? And I think all of us ask those kind of questions, but you seek the higher truths in life. You seek the greater truths in life and answering life's deepest and most and largest, most philosophical questions. And you are the ones who can go on that particular path. Um, and finding meaning and divinity and what you're seeing around you in your everyday life. So it's going to be very important for you to get out there and to try to explore different things, to try to figure out what are you good at, why are you here, what's your purpose, what are you really meant to experience, who are you truly meant to become and be and evolve into in this life, what are you destined for, where are you bound. So these are the kinds of big questions here. Um, um, and so seeking something greater than yourself, seeking something bigger, so spiritual conquests is sort of, a big thing with this placement. You're very philosophical if you have this placement. So you're very wise and intelligent, and with age comes wisdom. The more you experience and go around the block more times, then the more familiar you will be with it. And the more experiences you have, the wiser you become until you becoming an elder. And you have all this wisdom to teach on to the younger generations. Um, and so maybe you can be wise beyond your years even. Um, and yeah, so wisdom and intelligence come to be very big things for someone with displacement. Um, and so part of wisdom is like you're a wizard, you're super smart, you're super knowledgeable, but then dumb, where you can be humble to your knees, where you can continue to explore, where you don't have all the answers. No one knows everything there is to know. People have certain, with the careers that they choose there, some people are experts in archaeology, while others are experts in biology. So it's important to understand that you don't know all and that you can't really know all, and that you continue to be a lifelong learner and you're open to exploring new places and meeting new people from different walks of life, and continuing to broaden and expand your appetite in terms of your knowledge base, expanding that too. So the process of expansion and growth is never ending. And you have this never ending mountain of life to walk up upon, where the process of growth and evolution really has no end to it. It is ongoing. It's like the infinite universe. There isn't any end to it. And there are constantly new things to learn, and constantly new places to travel, new things to do, new places to explore, new things to learn. And so you really seek travel and adventure if you have this placement. So that's very, Sagittarian travel and adventure. You're getting beyond what you already know to be true, beyond your comfort zone, that kind of thing. So visiting people from different cultures than your own, and hearing out all different perspectives is going to be important for you. And so there is a deep love for learning and a very disciplined and avid learning. Saturn and Sagittarius can be a pretty strong placement because Sagittarius is about your outlook on life and your morals on life. And so Saturn can put a seriousness on that. And you may feel like there's so many places to explore, and you really want to take the most advantage of life and explore as much as you can, learn as much as you can, because Saturn is also about time and about the limitations of time, that you only have so much time on this earth, so you might as well take advantage of all that you have. So, it's about living one life and making that one life the best and most fulfilling and most meaningful life that you can make it. So, knowing that life is sacred and living like there's no tomorrow is sort of a huge thing that you can really strive for. So when you become a know-it-all and when you become closed-minded, it's important to have the awareness of when you're projecting, when you're imposing, when you're not being open and humble to receive new information, new perspectives and ideas. When you get yourself into a situation where that may be the case, it's important to step back and be an observer of this and to take the high road of Sagittarius and not the low road. Not be blunt where you're being tactless. You can be blunt and you can speak and voice your truth and share your thoughts and beliefs and opinions and all these kind of things, but in a way that's kind, in a way that's tactful, with understanding, with grace, and with compassion and acceptance for everyone, where this is my truth and it isn't the be all end all. And, with your truth, I'm open to learning your truth. And I will then sit back and receive this information and see what resonates within me and connect it to what makes sense. How does that make sense to me personally? How does it feel in my body? How does it make sense on an intuitive level? And so, yeah, so that is really what all this comes down to. So this life is set up for you to continually go on a journey of self-discovery through learning, through exploration. You're very fair and just people. And you care about people being free to be themselves, and that's a really, really strong value to have. But it's also important to not overlook the little details in your community and the people in your world, and to really appreciate the little things. It doesn't have to be going on this all these adventures all the time, and or learning and continuing to travel out of my cultural comfort zone, but to pay attention and live in your environment fully and travel and then come back to your community and teach and share that information and all the wisdom that you have gained through those experiences, through those adventures that you have. So that is all that I have to say on Saturn in the sign of Sagittarius. I would encourage you to like this video if you enjoyed it, so that more people can see it and watch it, and subscribe to this channel to help it to grow and for its expansion and growth. and you can hit the little notification bell so that you don't miss any future uploads from me. And maybe you can share this video from someone that would find value and someone that would resonate with what I have shared today. So, without further ado, find your true note and live according to that truth. Be authentic and also be open to new things at the same time, to new information, to new experiences. Because life has so much abundance and a wealth of information. And it would be unwise to think that you've gone far enough to where there's nothing left. Bye for now.